नंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय सॉरी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय जगन्नाथाय जय बलदेवाय सुभद्रमाय जय सुदर्शनाय जय गौरांगी बेंगलोरेश्वर जय गौरांगी बेंगलोरेश्वर गौरांगी बेंगलोरेश्वर जय गौरांगी जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय अनंत देव जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय निताय चैतन्य जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद नाम संकीर्तन की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय हरे कृष्णा welcome to Srimad Bhagavatam session on this third canto 27th chapter verse number 30. This is the concluding last verse of this chapter, understanding material nature. We will discuss about it. Yada
sharing has stopped.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second. How do I share it back? 1 second. This 1 second. Okay, let me stop share and
now we can see.
This extension monitor has some problem unless I connect that. Anyway, so now it's visible, so we are all fine, we are all good. Yeah, sure. This verse is now like visible, right?
Yes, we can see, Prabhuji. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for this. Yeah. With my camera. Yada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswating Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet Nashtaprayesh Abhadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let's recite the verse. Yada na yogo pachita sucheto maya su siddhasya vishajyate anga ananya hetu swatha me gati syad atyantiki yatra na mrityuhasah. Yada na yogo pachita sucheto maya su siddhasya vishajyate anga ananya hetu swatha me gati syad atyantiki yatra na mrityuhasah. Yada na yogo pachitasu cheto mayasu siddhasya vishajyate anga ananya hetusva athame gati syad atyantiki yatra na mrityuhasah. If anyone else would like to recite. Okay, we will proceed with word by word meanings and translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanarvind, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Word by word meaning. Yada, when. No, not. Yoga upachitasu, to powers developed by yoga. Chetaha, the attention. Mayasu, manifestations of Maya. Siddhasya, of a perfect yogi. Vishajyate, is attracted. Anga, my dear mother. Ananya hetusu, having no other cause. Atha, then, me, to me. Gati, his progress. Syat, becomes. Atyantiki, unlimited. Yatra, where. No, not. Mrityu hasaha, power of death. Translation. When a perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted to the byproducts of mystic powers, which are manifestations of the external energy, his progress towards me becomes unlimited, and thus the power of death cannot overcome him. Here the byproducts of mystic powers, like maybe Anima, Lagima, or Vyapti, all these things, right? 8 siddhis, right? So those are actually whatever be the outcome, most powerful outcome of these siddhis, basically these siddhis, they are all material. They are not spiritual. So we see in today's world, if some so-called yogi is able to see, is able to show some miraculous act, so people think that he is the spiritual man. Yes, he is a very big spiritual person. But mass of people, common mass of people, they are not able to discriminate between yogic siddhis like ashtasiddhi or any other things, any byproduct of mystic yoga. So that is different from true spirituality. They are not able to discriminate that this is not true spirituality. Anyway, so if someone is able to produce some ashes from his hand, people think that he is such a supreme divine person, like that. And Srila Prabhupada and his disciples also, they have called that such person who are able to, they produce some ashes, rakh in Hindi we call that, right? Some ashes from their hand, they are no more than ashes, as in A-double-S-E-S, ashes. They are not more than ashes than more than ashes. So So when attention, perfect yogi's attention is no longer attracted by these material, essentially material powers, then his progress towards me become unlimited. and thus the power of death cannot overcome me. So when that happens, when yogi is no longer interested in such powers, when does that happen? We will see later. Something higher has to be there, no? Then only even a perfect mystic yogi be not attracted by the byproducts. So you will see. Yogis are generally attracted to the byproducts of mystic yogic power, for they can become smaller than the smallest, like anima, or greater than the greatest, lagima, achieve anything they desire, prapti, have powers even to create a planet, all these things, or bring anyone they like under their subject, son, Vasikaran or anything. Yogis who have incomplete information of the result of devotional service, I will repeat this, yogis who have incomplete information of the result of devotional service are attracted by these powers. So don't know the glory or the bliss which is there, highest bliss available in devotional service. If they are not aware of that, then they are actually attracted by these powers. But these powers are material. They have nothing to do with a spiritual progress. As other material powers are created by the material energy, mystic yogic powers are also material. Perfect yogi's mind is not attracted by any material power, but is simply attracted by unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. Ahvaituki apratiyata. That's essentially unalloyed service. In Bhagavatam, the first fundamental question, first chapter, the first canto, first chapter. So the first question which is asked by sages is Tatra Tatranjasa Yasman Bhavata Yad Vinisitam Punsam Ekantata Shreyas Tanna Sansetum Arasi. There also the ekantiki word is mentioned like this word, this verse. Yeah, we will, let's see that, Yeah, here. Atyantiki. Okay, there's a similar meaning, actually, similar word. Okay, so what is the best like benefit of best benefit for all the living entities, not only humans, but yeah, so like that. So that's mentioned that what is the best interest for all human being and all living entities also. Anyway, so let's see. Yeah. So the answer was given as first question's answer was, basically, the Savai Punsam Paro Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Adhokchaje. Yeah, Ahayatuki Apratiyata Yayatma Suprasidati. That was the answer given to that. So yeah, we will see. Yeah, as we read that, yeah, as other material powers are created by material energy, mystic yogic powers are also material. Yeah, this we read. A perfect yogi's mind is not attracted by any material power, but is simply attracted by unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. So, yeah, at the end of Karma Yoga chapters, like 6th chapter, last verse, 6.47 in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that yogi nama api sarvesam madgate nantaratmana. Yeah. So who always whose mind dwells in me, who is completely attached to me in devotional service, that yogi is the best. So Krishna has already established what yogi is best, not the mystic yogi, but the bhakti yogi, essentially. For a devotee, the process of merging into the Brahman effulgence is considered to be hellish, and yogic power, or the preliminary perfection of yogic power, to be able to control the senses, is automatically achieved. Yeah, let's read this again. For a devotee, the process of merging into the Brahman effulgence is considered to be hellish, and yogic power, or the preliminary perfection of yogic power, to be able to control the senses, is automatically achieved. Yeah. As for elevation to higher planets, a devotee considers this to be simply hallucinatory. A devotee's attention is concentrated only upon the eternal loving service of the Lord. And therefore, the power of death has no influence over him. In such a devotional state, A perfect yogi can attain the status of immortal knowledge and bliss. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam. Vande Gurun Vaishnava Sasripam Sagrajatam Sagaravatam Tang Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadoktam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Shakram Tamscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namene Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Satguru Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Yeah. So here, actually, the sequence is, that Lord says that, when Mother Devhuti raises the question about, how difficult it is for a conditioned soul to be free from the clutches of modes of material nature or Maya, external energy of the Lord. Eventually, basically, Lord says, and in the answer, Lord says that one should perform Tibra Bhakti Yoga, intense Bhakti Yoga, right? So that was the answer. And here, Lord concludes that even basically, if he is not attracted by products of mystic power, then his progress towards me becomes unlimited. Yeah, and death cannot overcome him. Does it mean that the physical body is not going to die? Does it mean that soul is not going to leave this material body? No, that's not the meaning. The soul will eventually leave this material body and basically acquire next body based on what was the basically desire, the predominant desire, and how much one deserves, right? Based on desiring and deserving, one would actually acquire next body. So, in a book, His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami Maharaj, he has compiled based on Srimad Bhagavatam and our basically Srila Prabhupada's books only. So he mentioned, the book is called Death, that at the time when one quits the material body, then subtle body still remains, right? Which comprises of basically mind, false ego, yeah. So basically, it is one's mind is analyzed, yeah. So man buddhi amitya, right? So one's mind is analyzed by the agency of the Lord. That whether one has the only desire to serve the Lord, or that soul has some desire, some material, some traces of material enjoyment. If one has any sort of desire, material, material desires, enjoying some or other things, that trace, even some trace is left, then that person has to acquire another material body. Yeah. So whether depends on what is the proportion. If one is highly elevated in bhakti, but still some bit of material enjoyment tendency is left over, then he might go to Jana Loka, Tap Loka, all these places, right? Any commensurate to the basically how much one has advanced in bhakti. So proportionately, one is sent to higher planets. Yeah. And if one is very sinful, he will go to the lower planets, as Bhagavad Gita mentions, right? Urdham gachanti sattvastha, madhya tishthanti rajasa, like that. So that I was talking from the point of view of, how much we have, one has advanced in bhakti, right? So this, the whole question the one question I raised in the beginning, that when is the yogi not attracted by the byproducts? That's like, that happens only when param dashtva nivartate. Only when one has some knowledge or full knowledge of bhakti yoga. by direct, direct experience, not by just hearing. Yeah. So like Sravanam Kirtanam, that always comes throughout this, even 8 chapters of Sankhya Yoga. Essentially, these are Bhakti Yoga chapters only. It looks like they are, something different from Bhakti Yoga, but no, essentially all of these are in every chapter. Lord has always emphasized, Lord Kapil Dev, the main current or main theme, if we carefully notice, it is always Bhakti Yoga. And that too also Sravanam and Kirtana. Sravanam Kirtana. Everywhere, beginning even in 25th chapter, it says Madasraya Matkatha Mrishta Sridvanti Kathayanti Cha. That also came there. Madasraya Katha Mrishta Sridvanti Kathayanti Cha. Tapanti Vividhastapa Netam Madgat Chetasa. He says that actually. So there also it's a Srinavanti Kathyanti. First of all, we have to hear sufficiently. Actually, in many places, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in his purport, few standard phrases, in full Krishna consciousness, right? And then sufficiently hearing. If one has sufficiently heard about the topics of Krishna, right? So what is the meaning of this sufficiently hearing and full Krishna consciousness? So there are several levels of that, even that, even in for full Krishna consciousness. One is that when Srila Prabhupada has told his disciples in some lectures, during some lecture or morning walk, that even if you are 70% Krishna consciousness, you will go back to Godhead, or I will take you back to Godhead, back to spiritual world, right? So what is that 70%? That translates to 6 to 7, 8 hours roughly. You're sleeping, another daily course. Taking bath and honoring prasad, and all those daily processes. Except that whatever time is available, you spend in Krishna Bhakti. That is actually the minimum qualification, basically that minimum definition of full Krishna consciousness. So he actually began with you have to be 100%, spend 100% time in Krishna consciousness. Then based on some further, prodding or inquiry, what we call it, Srila Prabhupada eventually came to 70%. That essentially translates to 17 hours roughly, 16 to 17 hours. Essentially, it doesn't mean that all 17 hours we are chanting, but by apart from our sadhana, hearing, chanting minimum 16 rounds and reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Apart from that, we are engaged in preaching or some services, basically into the lordships. So if one is spending all one's time available in Krishna Bhakti, either direct manual service or preaching or any sort of thing, there are so many limbs of service. So if we are engaged into Krishna Bhakti during all our available time, that means full Krishna consciousness. That's the minimum eligibility, like Kevala Sadhana Bhakti, one can say that. Above that, you have like Bhav and all those, but minimum eligibility is Kevala Sadhana Bhakti. During all our available time, we have to be engaged in Krishna Bhakti. That's the minimum eligibility. So that happens basically, not by force, but by Lord's mercy, that we get enough taste in Krishna Bhakti that we are voluntarily and happily we are engaged in Krishna Bhakti. By force, one cannot sustain that. Not possible. We will always develop some or other desire. I have to see about my business, what happened there, all these things that will come. Only when we are, saturated by, saturated, or we actually are able to taste the real nectar, by Guru and Krishna's mercy, that Param Drashtva Nivartate, it's not a mechanical process, that I, instead of 16, if I chant 32, Krishna is obliged to give me Krishna Prema. It doesn't work like that. That's where Krishna Bhakti is different from, worship of any demigods. There are several, things, several mantras for, satisfying different demigods, that you chant 3 lakh mantras of Lord Ganesha or maybe Durga, yeah, right? So they are more or less obliged to give you the benediction, whatever was intended to begin with. But chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the fundamental aspect is, a fundamental premise is, we are chanting for the pleasure of Krishna. Now, after chanting, regularly chanting for our rest of the lives, it is Krishna's prerogative to actually, bring us to a spiritual world. Or only Krishna and Paramatma knows that, we need further purification or not. So it's completely up to Krishna. We cannot demand from Krishna that, I have been chanting, 32 rounds or 48 rounds or 64 rounds daily in my life. So you must take me to your abode, a spiritual world. It doesn't work like that. Anyway, I was all elaborating on Parang Drishtva Nivartate, right? 2.59 Bhagavad Gita. Parang Drishtva Nivartate happens by the mercy of Krishna, by the free will, like Krishna's is fully Swarat. So if he wants to award that genuine higher taste, that genuine higher taste is not obtained just by mechanical devotional service. Anyway, so if that Parang Drishtva Nivartate, that happens, that is achieved by someone, then one will not be attracted to any such mystic yogic power or anything like that. Yeah. So now, coming back to, few other points. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned here, merging into spiritual Brahma Jyoti is considered a hellish, right? Let's see. Yeah. For a devotee, the process of merging into the Brahman effulgence is considered to be hellish. Yeah. Hellish compared to what? Compared to unalloyed service of the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So, going to Brahma Jyoti, by the way, this merging doesn't mean that the individuality of the soul is lost. The soul is one with the Lord. It's not like that. The soul is never actually, the individuality of the soul is never lost. It's just that one is free from Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, and some happiness is there. Some happiness is there definitely in Brahma Jyoti also. People who say that there is no bliss, no, that's not correct. There is some bliss there, okay, but it is nothing compared to the bliss obtained by performing unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. So it's even called that, in a desert, Registan, Marubhumi, right? In the desert, when one is very thirsty, that time if you want to give him, 2 drops of water, how much will that have effect, right? That will not quench the thirst of the person, right? It might even make that person more thirsty. So, and having full 1 liter, 2 liters, whatever amount of water we need, that's the allegory given by many, acharyas, that if one is allowed to drink as much water as required, needed to one's satisfaction, versus just getting 2 drops, not even full drops actually, it's called seeker, like in kusha grass, right? You bunch of kusha grass you dip in water and then you sprinkle it over the audience, right? So those are not even 1 full drop. So it's considered 2 such droplets of water. Anyway, so that's the comparison one basically many times is given between, the happiness available in Brahma Jyoti versus happiness, unlimited happiness derived while performing unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. What is the alloyed here? Alloy means we know. When pure metal is mixed with some other, secondary metals, that's called alloy. Unalloyed means the metal is pure, like pure gold, something like that, right? So pure unalloyed means not tainted by any material motive, or not tainted with any desire, ulterior desire, than to just please the Lord. That's unalloyed service to the Supreme Lord. So when that happens, then only one will be not attracted by the mystic powers and mystic yogic powers. Yeah. So that's the thing. And now coming to this, merging into the Brahman effulgence is considered to be hellish. For whom? When Srila Prabhupada says devotee. Now, whenever mostly when Srila Prabhupada mentions devotee, that means pure devotee, mostly. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada qualifies that, someone is progressive devotee and all these things. Unless otherwise mentioned, Srila Prabhupada, when Srila Prabhupada mentions the word devotee, that means pure devotee, right? Then only one will think that, merging into Brahman effulgence is hellish. Otherwise, there are so many sorts of, Gyan, Yogi and others. They think that going to Brahman is the ultimate end. Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada says about devotee. So devotee considers like that, hellish. Yeah. So, there is another analogy here given, or the superiority of Bhakti Yoga. Sometimes, Brahma Jyoti, the Brahmavadis, right? By the way, Brahmavadi is different from Mayavadi. So sometimes Brahmavadi think that we will become one with the Lord, or, we will become one with the Brahman, right? Or essentially, even Mayavadi think that we will become one with the Lord. But Bhakti Yogi, what they say, that at maximum you will become one with the Lord or same as Lord, but we become fathers of the Lord, father and mother. So Krishna naturally, reverses, loves his father and mother more, right? Or pure devotee. So of course it's spoken in a jest, but point is that Bhakti Yogi is always, superior than all other yogis. Yeah. So now this verse is, famous, Kaivalyam Narkayate Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. Let's actually, recite that verse. It's important. Srila Prabhupada mentions that Kaivalyam Narkayate Tridaspur Akas Puspayate. So Tridaspur means basically the heavenly planets. It's Akas Puspayate, means have we ever seen any flower blooming in the sky? No. So that means it's a phantasmagoria. So a devotee thinks Kaivalyam. Kaivalyam means, just merging into, going to Brahma Jyoti. Yeah, that's a Narakayate. So one genuine pure devotee, for him it's a going to Brahma Jyoti is hellish. And even what to speak of heavenly planets which are still within material realm. Right? So Tridaspur Akas Puspayate. That is all, phantasmagoria, like, as if there are flowers in the sky. It's not, never we have seen, right? Then Durdantendriya Kala Sarpa Patali Protkhat Damstrayate Vidhi Mahendradis Cha Kitayate. Vidhi means Brahmaji, Mahendra, like Indra. Cha Kitayate. One thinks that, a pure devotee thinks that position of Mahendra Vidhi, like Brahmaji, is Kitayate, like insects. Vishwam Purnam Sukhayate. Generally, Krishna says that, like what Krishna says that, Dukhalayam Asaswatam. But for a pure devotee, wherever the pure devotee is present, he is always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, thinking about his pastimes, right? Yeah. So Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. For that pure devotee, anywhere that pure devotee is present, for that devotee is Vishwam Purna Sukhayate, anywhere. So Lord Shiva also said, right, to Mother Parvati, 6th canto, 17th chapter, right, that Narayan Parah Sarve, Nakutasyan Bibyati, Swargapavarga Nargesu, right, Apitulyartha Darsina, right. A pure devotee, it doesn't matter whether he is put into hell. Of course, he will not be put into hell. But point is, he or she is like pure devotee is always, absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. And that's the reason pure devotee doesn't feel any pangs of, Trividatap or any other thing. Last line says, Yat Karunya Kataksha Vaibhavavatam Gauram Evastumaha. This verse is written by Prabodhananda Saraswati. By the way, this Prabodhananda Saraswati is from South Dakshin Bharat. It is not same as Prakashananda Saraswati of Benares. So we need to be clear about it. So this is the verse spoken by Prabodhananda Saraswati. He gives his opinion that if one is favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yat Karunya Kataksh. Yat means what? Whom? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a Karunya Kataksh. Sidelong, merciful glance, right? So if one is favored by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Yat Kataksh Vaibhavavatang Gauram Evastumaha. What he says? I am offering my respectful obeisances to Lord Chaitanya because little glance of his mercy creates this situation, pure devotion and able to release the true happiness of ever increasing happiness, bliss of Bhakti Yoga. That happens only by mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And to get mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have to please Nityananda Prabhu. So all the circle, and essentially our Guru is the mercy manifestation of the bona fide Vaishnava spiritual master, is mercy incarnation of Nityananda Prabhu. So if we have pleased our spiritual master by our devotional service, that's the perfection of everything. Then Nityananda Prabhu is pleased. If Nityananda Prabhu recommends, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will definitely give us the mercy, right? So what is that? Going ahead. Yeah. Little glance of his mercy creates this situation. There's one more thing I want to introduce here. In Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam's preface, introduction itself, Srila Prabhupada mentions, it is possible to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, the revealed, actual, the Gudha Arth, right? We call, right, Shabdarth, then Bhavarth, then Gura Arth, the deepest meaning. That is possible to attain that only by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Srila Prabhupada says that in the introduction itself. Now, what is that? Kaivalyam Narkayate. The people are anxious to merge into Kaivalya, like the Brahmavadis or maybe Mayavadis. Brahma Jyotir. The people are very anxious to merge into Kaivalya, Brahma Jyotir, only a spirit. So for them, that Kaivalya is Narka for a devotee. Kaivalyam Narkayate. Yes. And Tridas Pur Akas Puspayate. Yeah, it's a heavenly planet, and it is considered as as imaginary flowers, like that. So, by the way, Prahlad Maharaj, about Prahlad Maharaj, it's mentioned in 7th canto, 4th chapter. 31, 32, two slokas continuously. It mentions about his transcendental qualities. Then 33 and 34 up to this, and there are further 5-6 verses in which his qualities are glorified by his spiritual master, that is Narad Muni. So we can imagine what was the level bhakti, maturity of Prahlad Maharaj, because his spiritual master, who is Narad Muni, he himself is, such a elevated Vaishnava, right? So Naraji is glorifying Prahlad Maharaj. Yeah. So there also it's mentioned that, he was thinking of, Srutesu, Drishtesu, Gunesu, Avastudrik. Srutesu means Sruti, Vedas. Vedas mentioned about, they go, if you perform this activity, that activity, you will go to this planet, you will enjoy like this in your next life, all these things. So that is called Srutesu. Drishtesu means by directly seeing, some enjoyments, by other people. Srutesu, Drishtesu, Gunesu, like the products of mode of material nature, right? Any enjoyment thing, enjoyable things, basically product of material nature, right? Srutesu, Gunesu, Drishtesu, Avastudrik. He was considering all those things insubstantial. Vastu means some substance, Avastudrik means insubstantial. That was the level of Prahlad Maharaj. So pure devotees, they are at that level. Srutesu, Gunesu, Drishtesu, Gunesu, Avastudrik. Yeah, same thing is mentioned here, like enjoyment of heavenly planet is just pure phantasmagoria. And Durdantrendriya Kala Sarapa Patali Protkhata Damshtrayate. Yeah. Mystic yogis, with a lot of effort, they are able to control their senses. But by Bhakti Yoga, this is automatically basically brought under control. There is no separate effort needed, right? Yeah. So that's one thing. It's a byproduct of devotional service that automatically those things, those sense control, mind control automatically comes. Why? Because senses are there. When we engage our senses in devotional service, mind is above that. When, So in the Bhagavad Gita 3rd chapter, towards the end, it's mentioned. That sloka is there, that above the senses are mind, and above the mind is intelligence, above that also is soul. So if one is engaging one's mind fully in Krishna, right? How? Savai Mana Krishna Padarvindev. So if one is engaging one's mind fully in Krishna, then senses are automatically brought under control, because senses are below the mind, right? So like that. So yeah. Now the last thing is, So for the devotee, it is automatically all these things are automatically brought under control. Yeah. So Haridas Thakur is really a limited example, but of course the example would be given of the top personality only, right? So he didn't engage into any Ashtanga yoga or this or that yoga to control his senses, right? Just by chanting, fully engaged in chanting, and there's so many others, right? Like Ambarish Maharaj. Again, these are the topmost examples. But even coming to recent times, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, all those disciples, who were sincerely serving Srila Prabhupada's instructions, right? Chanting minimum 16 rounds and going through the morning sadhana process, right? They never had any fall down. And it is mentioned that, whoever, just to bring it in open, I'm just saying, whoever actually fell down after departure of Srila Prabhupada, it was figured out later that the fall down happened only because they were either not chanting full 16 rounds or they were chanting inattentively and their morning program was not good. Like chanting was not good enough or not even completing 16 rounds. So that was the reason. That was all the reason. That's the only reason, main reason. So like that. So if one is for serving Srila Prabhupada's instruction, chanting minimum 16 rounds, following 4 regulatory principles, and of course, chanting means chanting and hearing. By the way, chanting means, chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as well as chanting the glory of Krishna. When Srila Prabhupada says in the purpose, chanting means basically sharing Krishna's glory with others, right? So that also included. So that we will be able to do only when we have sufficiently heard from nice devotees, like a very elevated devotees, like Prabhupada's disciples, or anyone who is fully loyal and fully sincere to Srila Prabhupada's instruction. That person may not be a sannyasi, because in the definition of sadhus, Lord Kapila has never mentioned the ashram of a sadhu, color of the dress of sadhu, gender of the sadhu, or age of the sadhu. None of these things have been qualified or attributed to a bona fide definition of a sadhu. Only is, mentions that titikshava karunika, surda sarvadehina, this kind of thing, right? Ajasatarva sadhava sadhu bhushna. By the way, the sadhava means strictly adhering to the scriptural root, essentially Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. So one can be even less in age, quite less, even any age. I cannot put a number there, So age, gender, ashrama, dress of color of the dress, none of these things have ever been mentioned by Lord as a qualification of a sadhu. So whoever is sincerely following Srila Prabhupada's instruction, from that person we can hear Krishna Katha, as simple as that. Yeah. So like that. So yeah, 1 second. Yeah. So we have Ambarish Maharaj's example that he was engaging all his senses in Krishna's service. So he didn't, get perturbed when there was a tried to kill him, right? So he considered that whatever happens, it will be the will of the Lord. So of course, Sudarsana was residing in his home, and Sudarsana nullified the demon created by Durvasa and changed Durvasa Muni. We know all that, right? Shared about Prahlad Maharaj also, right? So it's mentioned, let me recite the full verse. No udvigna chitto veshanesu nespriha shrutesu drishtesu gunesu avastudrik dantendriya prana. See, dantendriya. Dantendriya means his indriyas are in control. Pran, sharir, dhi, sada. So everything is controlled. Prana is controlled. Sharir, dhi, intelligence is always controlled. Prashanta kamo rahita suro sura. So like that. So he was fully peaceful, not even hankering for this or that other thing. Yeah. So that was sloka. One was sloka was that kaivalyam narkayate tirdas pur akas puspayate durdante indriya kala sarva patali protkhat damshayate. So that sloka I wanted to quote because Srila Prabhupada is referring to that sloka here. Yeah, from beginning from here to all this. Yeah. Yeah, hallucinatory, like that. The spura akas puspayate. Yeah, listen to higher planets. Yeah, and the perfect topmost example of devotion is exhibited by the gopis in Vrindavan, right? So yesterday I was reading 10th canto, so very amazing. Okay, gopis are different. When there's the topmost example, even the queens of Dwarka. By the way, queens of Dwarka are also manifestations or expansions of the Braj gopis. So it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Anyway, so in there, when Draupadi asks about their experiences, how they got married and all these things, then the queens of Krishna, they say that we don't even want entry into the spiritual world. We just want to, carry on our head the dust of lotus feet of Krishna, and some other detail is there. I don't want to say here. But yeah, but fragrant dust of the lotus feet of Krishna, we want to carry on our head. That's the only desire we have. We don't even want, we are not hankering for even entering into a spiritual world. That's the level of, that not desiring anything apart from serving Krishna. So that's Srila Prabhupada has also quoted in one place. Pure devotee is not even concerned of going back to a spiritual world. It's not a separate concern for him. That's automatically achieved, or if Krishna wants, Krishna can send him Krishna can send him or her at some other planet for assisting in, Krishna's mission. As simple as that. So pure devotee, that's the highest level of, pure devotion. That one is not bothered about going back to spiritual world, bothered about being freed from, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, right? So, yeah, that's the highest level of pure devotion. Yeah. Now, there is a few other examples. By the way, one thing I wanted to clarify. In this chapter, Lord Kapila Deva had mentioned that Tivrana Bhakti Yogana one must do for a long time, right? Long time. And over multiple lifetimes, one must perform. That sort of information is also mentioned. Okay, but there's a rule in Shastra, that Uttarakhanda, what comes later as a conclusive statement, that supersedes the statements mentioned in previous sections of the Shastra, the earlier sections of the Shastra. So, during later cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned that if one is, full-time Krishna consciousness, one can go back to a spiritual world after quitting this life only. Not that one has to basically spend multiple lifetimes, no. But that is Kevala Sadhana Bhakti is the minimal level of, bhakti. That I multiple times repeated earlier, that during all our available time, wake-up time, we have to be engaged into Krishna Bhakti, right? Whether it's cooking for the Lord, chanting our Hare Krishna Mahamantra rounds, or preaching, reading, all these things, right? Sadhana, Seva, Sadachar, Satsanga, all these things, right? So if we are involved into that, then in the very same life, we are eligible to go back to Godhead. It's up to Krishna whether he will entertain us or not, right? But in good faith, if we do that, we can go back to spiritual. We are eligible to go back to Godhead in this very same life. So that he has mentioned. So this third canto. Okay, there is one reference from Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, 5.19. Ihaiva tairjitah sargo yesham samme sthitang manah nirdosam hi samang brahma tasmad brahmani te sthita. Let's say its translation. Yeah, those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. It's directly correlating with the meaning here. One is beyond the power of death, right? So here, see, yeah, I have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman, basically above the three modes of nature, right? Essentially, right? So like that. So how this sameness will be achieved? It's mentioned. Minds are established in sameness and equanimity. So one can be at this level truly, all the time. Only if one is actually a pure devotee, or basically very much progressive towards pure devotion. Only then in this can happen. Otherwise, if you have some material desires here and there, then it will not be possible. We will get agitated either in a either with less intensity or more, but our minds will not remain at sameness and equanimity. This can happen only with very good experience in Krishna Bhakti. Very good. If we have relished Krishna Bhakti, we are always hankering to hear about Krishna. Then this can happen. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not possible. See, in Bhagavad Gita, initial 6th chapter, no, it's mentioned that if you are at this level, you can conquer death, or you can, be free from birth and death, like that. But how it is achieved, that level, that is mentioned in the middle 6th chapter, right, which is Bhakti Yoga. Let's see another related thing. Yeah, this is one of my favorite quotes all the time. Mangcha yo avibhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunana samtitetan brahma bhujaya kalvate. 14.26. One who engages in full devotional service. Yeah, full means all available time. Yeah, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Why do we, it's not saying that one can merge into Brahman. No. It is mentioned that one comes at the level of Brahman, that is above the modes of nature. That's it. So why is it needed? It's not that, Bhakti Yogi is pure devotee. He is entering Brahmajyoti, no. But he is definitely surpassing even the level of Brahman. That's a different thing. But definitely level of Brahman, why? Why is it needed? It's mentioned in one place by Srila Prabhupada that to serve Krishna, one must be fully pure, right? Fully pure means above the modes of material nature, right? So that's what it means actually, that eligibility to serve Krishna. That means like truly, in a true devotional service. Srila Prabhupada says that in one place that only when we are liberated means essentially being freed from the tabernacles or the tentacles of mode of material nature. Then only the real devotional service begins. That means above the modes of nature, right? So that when it is mentioned that comes to the level of Brahman, that means we are freed from all the modes of material nature, and we are at the level of pure Shuddha Sattva. Then basically real devotional service begins. But as of now, we are many of us may not be at the level of Brahman or free from modes of nature. So we do practice, and by Krishna's mercy, we can transcend the mode of nature. So we are practicing right now very nicely, and if we are sincere, Krishna will actually help us. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Devi hesa gunmay mama maya duratyaya mame viye prapadante maya metang tanantite. By Krishna's mercy, we transcend, not by by count of our rounds, but we do have to practice. Yeah. Anyway, one more reference I wanted to say. So, as I was trying to say that Uttarakhand has more, it's later section of a Shastra that is more conclusive than previous section. So here, 5th canto, see what is mentioned. Tasman naro sanga susanga jata, asang and susang. Asang, anyway, we will see. By detachment from the association of worldly people, susanga by association of devotees. Yeah. What is the final here meaning? See, simply by associating with exalted devotees, anyone can attain perfection of knowledge. And with the sword of knowledge, by the way, this knowledge is not Gyan Yogi, Nirakar Brahman knowledge, and not that. This knowledge is Bhakti Yoga knowledge. Yeah. One can cut to pieces the illusory associations within this material world through the association of devotees. See again, what is the central theme here? Through the association of devotees. Again, when Srila Prabhupada says devotees, that means pure devotees. One can engage in the service of the Lord by hearing and chanting. Again, see, the fundamental thing is always Sravanam and Kirtanam. Yeah, and I have seen, let's complete this. Thus, one can revive one's dormant Krishna consciousness, and sticking to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness, return home back to the Godhead, even in this life. This is what I wanted to bring to the notice, even in this life. As Rupa Goswami says, Iha yasya haridasya karmana manasa gira nikhilas avasthasu jivan mukta sauchyate. Even in this life, one is liberated, right? So that's possible. If by mind, word, and body we are fully engaged into service of Krishna, Vaishnava, pure devotees, all this thing, right? Yeah. So even in this life, it's possible. There is a great hope. Yeah. So now the thing is, for Grihasthas, is it possible? Definitely possible. If we spend, typically it's much easier for, sincere devotees who have joined the temple. It's much easier for them, but it's not impossible for Grihasthas also. It's very much possible. Yeah. Brahmaji also mentioned, right? And when he, after Brahma Vimohan Lila, he glorifies Krishna, right? Recognizing his mistake, then he glorifies Krishna. Yeah, the famous sloka is Jnane prayasam udapasya namante eva jivanti sanmukharitam bhavdiya vartam. Yeah, like that. Sthane sthita srutigatam tanuvang manobir. This line. Sthane sthita srutigatam tanuvang manobir. Ye prayaso jit jitaisopi tais trilokyam. Even he says that remaining in our respective ashramas, right? Remaining, not that one must become sannyasi. He doesn't say that. And Brahmaji is our founding acharya of Brahma Madhava Gauriya Sampradaya. He is not an ordinary devotee. He is a pure devotee. Our Brahmaji is pure devotee of Krishna. So sthane sthita sruti gatang tanuvang manobhir. He says that remaining in our respective ashramas, if we hear from, hear sufficiently, again, Srila Prabhupada says, if we hear Krishna Katha from, advanced or pure devotees, then we can conquer Krishna, like that. He says that. So that he sufficient hearing, what is the symptom? That we start hankering to hear more and more. And basically, as Kapil Dev also says, that Madguna Surti Matren. Anyway, there is no end to quoting verses, but remain at Brahmaji's instruction. So if we delve into that, then in any asrama, we just have to basically put an endeavor. We have to endeavor very sincerely to hear more and more from elevated Vaishnavas, pure devotees, right? Then we can conquer Krishna. How Rukmini Devi got attracted to Krishna? Because the vendors and other places, they who used to come from Vrindavan or other places, and when they used to relate, Krishna looks like this, he killed the demons like this, he performed this lila, that lila. Hearing all that, she developed intense longing for Krishna. Anyway, Rukmini Devi is different. She is like the highest level expansion of Krishna Jala Deni Sakti. But we can also derive some, inspiration that sincerely we have to put endeavor to hear more and more and Sravanam Kirtanam, right? This is the main thing. If we hear sufficiently, naturally we will develop the urge to share with others. That will happen. There is no exception to that. That will definitely happen. So Bhagavatam also says, Jasyam Sroyamanayam Krishna Paramapuruse Bhaktir Utpatyate Pumsa Sokamoha Bhayapaha. Just by sincerely hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, devotional tendency to, performing devotional service to Krishna, that mood immediately sprouts up within our heart, right? And we are freed from Sokamoha and Bhaya. Anyway, so all I was trying to say that this level is achieved by basically full bhakti, like full, full Krishna consciousness, then this level can be achieved. So yeah, when we are free from our occupational things, occupational anxieties, right? If we don't have that, and during the time when we are not doing household chores, right? At least at that time, even if we can spare 2 hours extra, right? Apart from 16 rounds, I'm talking, even 2 hours apart from 16 rounds, or 3 hours. I don't know how much we have. That is person to person, right? Mataji have more responsibility for household affairs, right? So whatever time we can spare, if we spend that time in hearing or reading about Krishna from Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, that itself is sufficient to please the Lord, because Lord is residing in our heart as Paramatma. So Lord Krishna knows that, okay, whatever time is available, based on our present situation, we are spending that time in hearing about Krishna. Then Krishna will be pleased. As simple as that. So gradually, over the time, we develop the attraction to Krishna, very good attraction, and then we will not be attracted to any material thing. So, and in the same life, we can go back to Godhead if we actually, are fully engaged into Sravanam Kirtana, even in this life. This I wanted to bring, because based on this chapter, it looked like, I was going through all the slokas that it looks like multiple lifetimes. It's a very, still very, very not so encouraging situation. But the later section of Bhagavatam says, same life you can go if you are fully Krishna conscious. That means by utilizing all our available time in Krishna. Hare Krishna. That's the. I will stop here. If there is any question, we can discuss. Okay, looks like we don't have any question. So fine, we will stop here. Grantha Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.